Okay, next thing what we are going to do is that when we have finished our sculpt, we have to prepare our model for retopology in ZBrush. So basically the next thing what I'm doing here for this shark guy is that I go to my subtool palette and I have quite a few subtools here what I want to merge together. And of course, before you start to merge these, you have to has a saved copy of your working file if you just want to continue your sculpting at some time. So please save a working copy for this Retopo. And usually what we want to Retopo is the head and the body, and then separately we want to create Retopo for the teeth and for the eyes. So let's merge together the body and all the other big forms of this character. So on my subtool palette, I've selected active subtool, and then I go to the merge section down here, and I have few options. Usually I personally use this merge down. So now my body is selected, I press merge down, and the ZBrush asks me if I want to merge for real, and I say okay, and always skip until next restart, so ZBrush won't ask me again if I really want to merge these together. And now first things are merged. After that I'm merging down. So because I started with the first object of the, or the subtool of the hierarchy, I can just merge down and everything is going under the same object, same time. And then I have only the teeth left. Yeah, lower teeth. I will turn off the visibility of those, so and eyes as well. So now I see only what I'm going to prepare for retopology. So the process of retopology uh, needs that we decrease our amount of polys. Currently we have almost 4 million polys here, and it's really inconvenient to take this large file into Maya where we are going to do the retopo. So here in ZBrush we have a Z plugin, or under the Z plugins this decimation master tool. You can find it here. And now I'm going to modify a bit my UI so it's more convenient for me to use the Z plugin. So left here you can see this divider. If you double click it, you can open another tool palette here, and there is already brush selections. And now I come on top of my Z plugin, and on the left corner of my Z plugin there is this kind of icon. When I hover on top of it, my cursor turns in to hand, and then I can just drag it to this palette. And now I can see my Z plugin like all the time here. And then I open Decimation Master. And before we can decimate our character, so basically what decimation does is that it turns our quads into triangles, but during that transform, it tries to preserves as good as it can all the details what we have sculpted into our mesh. So before we can start this transformation, we have to pre-process this. So because I have only one tool what I want to pre-process and it's selected, I'm pressing pre-process current, and now we're starting pre-processing, and up here we can see that ZBrush is working with the pre-process. Uh, and the larger your amount of poly is, longer this will take, and sometimes there might be also crashing during this Z plugging process. So if it takes lots and lots of time, it's better that you start all over again. So just uh, turn off the ZBrush. But so, in this case, the pre-processing went through successfully, and then we come here to the decimation part. So currently, uh, we have decimation process for 20% of the original amount of polys. So we can do that. So if I now press decimate current, it will do it quickly, and I will close this divider, and currently we have active points for 800,000 almost, so that's too many, and our model looks still the same if we compare it to the 4 million polys. But now if I'm turning on the polyframe, which you can turn from here, we can see that we have already triangles, but it looks completely the same. So one thing here in the process of decimation, what you have look closely, is how the details are preserved. Basically you can go as low as you can with these active points if all the details are saved, or all the details what you want to be saved. And basically this means that all the larger forms needs to be saved, like the muscles and the bones. But yeah, we can still decrease amount of polys. So the target where we want to hit with active points is around 300,000, or between 200,000 and 300,000. So normally how I do this is just that I decrease amount of decimation. So I'll try with 10%, and then I press decimate current, and let's see if I close this divider by double clicking it. I have now 400,000 active points, and still it preserves nicely the detail. So I can go even lower. So let's 5% might be great, and then decimate current. And I have 200,000 active points. And if I see it now, if I look this closely, I can see already that there is triangles. So the surface ain't yet anymore as smooth as it was with uh, 4 million polys, but we can see also that if I'm turning the polyframe on, that there is now larger polygons, which causes, of course, that it the surface cannot be as smooth with as compared to the smaller ones. But uh, it still preserves the overall form what I want to capture, so I'm not worrying about that. And 200 polys is good, uh, and Maya can handle that very well. So I think I'm quite happy with the result. And as shown here in the polyframe, decimation master puts everything under the same polygroup, which is also needed in Maya, because otherwise if we have separate polygroups, Maya will load up different or will load up everything with as separate objects. So that's why we need to be sure that everything what we want to bring in Maya is under the same object. Otherwise we have to merge those or combine those in Maya, and it takes time. So the next thing is that we are going into Maya, and I have my subtool active here, which means basically that now I can just export this as OPG. OPG is general file format for 3D objects. It contains raw data uh, of vertices, so it's kind of the JPEG file of 3D files. And just from this palette you select export, and then we get the exporting window, and I will rename this to be shark guy decimated, and we can see that it's OPG, and I'm going to change that it will save it as OPG into the desktop and save it. Next thing what we are doing, we are starting up the Maya. So please start up your Maya. And again, my workspace is Maya Classic. You can see it here on the workspace, under the workspace menu, and I will change my background color. So Alt P, Alt B is hotkey for cycling the background colors. And then we come here up to the file and import Command I is the hotkey for this. For Windows, Control I, and we get import window. And currently we can import all files, which is good. So there is lots of different file formats what we can bring into Maya. But then I navigate to the desktop and select the shark guy OBG, and then I just import it, and it appears into my scene. And I can see here in the outliner that it says Shark Guy decimated group, and then there is number. We can actually rename this, that it just is Shark Guy. And as I said earlier, we can hide the grid because currently the grid is kind of our way when we start our process of Retopo. So here is the small icon under the lighting and show. If you turn that off, we can start work without the grid. But it's good thing to remember that origin of our scene is here inside of the shark guy's head. And then few things about process of Retopo. So now we have sculpted our high poly model, but that's not enough. If we want to texture or animate our character, we have to create a low poly mesh, which we can achieve by doing retopology. So everything what we basically get out from the zebras is very high uh, high poly models, where is lots and lots of detail, but that mesh we cannot use, for example, in Unity, or there is no sense to try to rig that to get animations done because it's so heavy that it won't run smoothly. So that's why we are going to make a lower res mesh where we are going to project all the details later on in Substance Painter uh, from this high poly mesh what we can take out from the zebras. But for now we are we will start building this lower resolution mesh for this shark guy with Maya tools. So I will introduce the tools now, and next thing what I will do is maybe to tell a bit more how you should do the Retopo. First of all, for Retopo we need activate our modeling toolkit. And then we are just clicking our shark guy decimated to be active. And we are coming up here to this magnet or these magnet icons where is only this magnet, and when you hover on top of it, it says make the selected object live. And when you click it, you can see that now it's highlighted, and next to it the shark guy decimated is highlighted, and that means that our surface is live and we cannot control the vertex, or we cannot click it to be active, but because it's live we can use it with other tools. So it basically means that now when we start Retopo with this Quattro tool, so I'm clicking down here on my modeling toolkit, the Quattro tool to be active. And when I come, for example, on top of this shark guy's eye and click once, I can see that I get one dot, one green dot, and this green dot here is actually a vertex. So now when I'm clicking with this tool, I can create vertices which are automatically sticking in to Shark Guy's vertices or Shark Guy's faces. If I turn around, I can see, okay, they are there. And now if I want to create a polygon here, I have to press shift. And now when I have 4 vertices, I can see that it wants to create a polygon there. And if I click mouse left, I have now 1 polygon created there, or 1 quad. During the Retopo phase, we are mainly doing only quad polygons. Sometimes you can do triangles, but only sometimes when you can hide those very well. But most of the time we want to create quads because doing the retopo is similar to sculpting, because when we start to sculpt we just want to block the large forms very fast and get those right. So basically what we want to do with the retopo is that we are going to block large areas quite fast, and then we can be uh, happy with our retopo. But if we need more resolution, we can easily then divide our mesh or make it more dense with subdivision surface, or subdividing our surface when we have quads, because quads are nicely subdivided in Maya. Okay, so basically the next thing what I'm doing is that I'm creating more of these polys. So I'm start to wrap up the head of Shark Guy. There is possibility to do this mirrored, so it creates topology same time for the both sides. Personally, I don't like to use that because it causes glitching. So my workflow is that I go first and do the right side of the character, and then I'm going to mirror everything manually to the left side, and I get better control over the mirroring process. But if you want to try symmetry, you can turn it on from here on the modeling toolkit, and in this case I think it's model X. Yeah, so down here world X, and now if I'm doing polys here, so basic workflow of doing polys: clicking 4 times, pressing shift down, pressing mouse left, and now you can see that the symmetry is turned on. But because I don't like the symmetry, I will turn it off. And then when we have this kind of situation that we have already 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices here, we can press shift here, and Maya automatically tells us that we can create poly here. And if I click mouse left, I can create the poly. But if I'm unsatisfied with that poly, I can press Ctrl Shift, which is the chance for me to delete the poly. So with shift pressed, I can create a poly, and shift control pressed down and mouse left click, I can delete the poly. I can also delete the edges. If I hover on top of the edges, I will delete the edge, and now it's one big poly there. Then if I there is another way to connect these two polys. I don't necessarily have to create new poly here. I can just come on top of the vertex on this corner. So then you can see that it's highlighted on red, and my cursor is turned this 4 or it's turning this, or it's showing these 4 arrows. And now if I press my mouse left down and drag this vertex and come on top of another vertex, Maya tells me that I can weld these together. So now if I release this, they are welded together and they are staying together. And I can do as well this for the other parts. So I can weld, I can create bridges. So basically this operation what I showed earlier, this is same as bridging, but it's inside of the tool. Then if we need to create more resolution to the already existing mesh, we can press Control and come on top of edge, and we can create a cut, or we can create an edge loop here. And if I press mouse left now, it will create an edge loop, and then we can kind of move this into the bigger area. And if we have two edge loops very close together and we want to smooth those, we just have to press shift down, and now my cursor is saying for me to relax. So if I'm pressing mouse left, I can relax the mesh and it will try to make it evenly divided over the surface. So that's our goal during the retopo, to make evenly divided mesh, or create evenly divided mesh for all over our object what we are retopoing, except we have different areas in our mesh which needs a different amount of resolution, but more to that in a second. And just for the recap, I'm deleting now most of my faces before I really start the retopo process of this shark guy. Okay, let's leave that there. And overall, if I'm looking my shark guy, I think I have really nice detail here around the head. So I have some cheekbones, I have some nostrils, eyes, of course. That is something what I want to preserve. So definitely here in the head area, I need to do smaller quads so I can preserve that detail. But for example here, if we are seeing the chest where we have big muscles, I can get away with larger quads and it still preserves the form, or keeps the form. And here in the shoulder and in the rib cage and here on the belly, I can use larger polygons as well in the legs and in the tail. And usually you want to start your retopo with as big polygons as you can. So I would probably start blocking my Retopo around the waist of this character, because I can do really high resolution really fast. So now I'm just arbitrarily looking where it might be the middle axis of my character, because I'm not using the symmetry. And then I'm creating 4 points, 4 vertices, and pressing shift and creating the first poly. And that looks nice. Then if I'm pressing tab down and going on top of the edge, my cursor is saying me that I can extrude. If I'm pressing mouse's left down and dragging it out, I can extrude it. And then I have to modify a bit my edge here, because I want that my edge matches or it follows the form of the surface. So this is really important here when we are doing the retopo. The most or we have to watch our sculpt surface, and we have to match our edges of our retopo to follow those forms of our sculpted object. And I can show examples of that. So I'm continuing my retopo like this. And here maybe I can adjust that way. Here. And I can see that here brush strokes goes like this. So if I want to preserve this form of the pelvis, I can actually create my retopo to go like this. And when I come in the backside of my shark, I can see that now basically this goes here or it's ain't as wide as here in the front side. If we can see that we can use these large polygons here. So, but then this waist shrinking down here to the backside, so we have to use a bit smaller polys around the back, like this. And now we have our first loop around the waist. The second loop, what I'm going to create, is going to be around this hip here. So I'm not starting to connect these yet together, but soon. So around the hip joint, I'm trying to achieve that there is this cylindrical form created, and same time I'm trying to see how the forms of the leg are going. For example, this huge thigh muscle, what my character has. I'm trying to match these edges to flow or follow it. So this is kind of following the muscle, and then I'm getting this turned right here, and then there is edge or this form where I can match this, and then I'm just continuing this polygon or poly loop here, under the leg, and then I'm just trying to connect this. Loop, and now I have a whole loop. And this is our aim for all the limbs of our character. We are just doing poly loops, and we are doing poly loops because we can divide those nicely if we need. So for example, if I now divide this, uh, you can see that when there is more resolution after I have divided it, it will snap to the surface automatically. So it gives more detail to our low poly or retopology mesh, like quite easily. And then of course we could continue this Retopo here and block our way for or to the lower parts, and here we can use quite large polys. But if we go here on the side of our character, we can see that now something is missed out from our Retopo. So these large polygons cannot capture the small bump of the thigh muscle. And for example, if I'm now pressing Control and clicking this here, we can see that, okay, now it's trying to capture the whole bump like this. And this is also similar to sculpting, or the face of the Retopo has similarities with sculpting, because you have to constantly go around your mesh and see what are all the details what you are capturing. If you are having this dark air or gray area here coming out of your Retopo mesh, you know that you are not capturing that, but the overall form what you capture is the most important, not all the small details. And I'm going to do now rest of this tie, and then I can show how this mesh is looking like on the low res without this high poly model, because from that we can observe how well we have captured those forms. And then I'm using my relaxation here, so pressing down shift and evening these. So more even the mesh is, more good it will be, or better it will be. And let's do a few more loops here. And you can use either by pressing down the tab and then the extrude tool, or then just pressing down the shift and adjusting this. and then we are coming on top of the knee, and where we can clearly see now the loop what I have created here. You can see that there is this form of the backside of the knee where I'm not capturing at all anything, so it's just now going too huge step down. So the thing what I need to do here is that I need to bring these closer, and this is something what happens often in the limbs, that you have to create a dense topology to the some side of the limb, and of course areas of the limbs need more uh, vertices, because we are going to do deformations while animating these, so it's good to give some more edge loops there, so the deformation will be nicer. But I think I can get away with these kinds of, or this amount of polys probably. Then I'm using relax again. And then here with the knee, I can a little bit adjust my polys to resemble a bit of the form of the knee bone. And actually, as I can see, I'm not capturing the knee bone at all. So if I'm inserting by pressing Ctrl the one edge loop here, I can maybe try to capture it a bit more. So I will take this and move it like on top of the knee bone. So now I'm capturing some, and then moving this on top of the knee bone, and now I can see that it follows a bit better of the form of the overall knee bone. The challenge here is that I have this huge valley before it, and then I just try to adjust this on top of the knee bone, because that's definitely the form what I want to capture. So basically you want to capture peaks and valleys of your sculpt model, because those are the things what will be shown also in the low res mesh. And now if we want to preview our leg, we can hide here in the outliner the shark guy decimated by pressing H, and then I'm turning off also its live surface, and now my mesh, just I'm pressing Q to deactivate the Quattro tool, and now I can see my mesh here in the normal view like this. And now I can see that, okay, I'm capturing some of the features of my high poly mesh. For example, the knee is captured here quite nicely. And now I think I can continue still a bit with my Quattro tool. So this is also something what happens if you save and you start Maya again, that you have to make the high poly surface. So now I'm making it back to visible. So if you have saved and open up Maya, nothing is live surface. So you have to select again your high poly model and come up here and make it live. After that, you click your poly surface active here on the outliner. So default name for surfaces created with Quattro tool is always polysurface. So I have created only one polysurface, which means basically that it's it's the surface what I worked on earlier. So that needs to be active, and then you just press Quattro tool, and you can continue from the earlier state of your uh, Retopo. So I'm quite happy with the leg now. So next thing what I probably would look into is the arm. So I start to block my arm just by creating these vertices here and pressing shift and mouse's left. And here's trying to block this in a little bit, trying to follow the triceps of my character here. Then coming here on the side and trying to see how it's captured. Okay. And then continuing and trying to go around the arm. Like this. Creating the loop around the arm and then relaxing it and trying to make it uniform and follow the overall forms of the arm or biceps and triceps. And then maybe I can add one more edge loop there to capture a bit more of the detail. And then I can just continue with this because there is not any high detail around here. I can just proceed with quite huge polygons. So in Retopo, it's good to remember that when you start the process, you should use quite large polygons. These are maybe even a bit too small at the moment. And then I'm just proceeding to the limb of my, or the elbow of the character. And here will happen same thing on this side what happened with the knee. So I have to create more dense topology on this side or this joint side than here to the outer limb or joint, because there is more detail, there is more complicated form, or maybe not more complicated, but the form needs more topology. And I'm trying to keep these edges as well flowing quite straight. So this is something what I try to avoid. I don't want my edge going like this. Okay, there is maybe some cases where this might happen, but in general, the edges should flow kind of continuously and nicely like this. And be quite straight. And then let's continue with this form. And there is this valley, what I want to capture. Definitely. So I'm actually trying to move these points here and bit imitate that with my Retopo, but in very low res way. So with the lowest possible amount, I'm trying to make this similar to inner arm. And then I have to of course tweak this here. And the thing what I'm doing constantly while I'm doing Retopo is that I'm trying to keep all these polygons here kind of uniform, so they should be square shaped more or less, and then they should be same sized if you compared polygons next, or polygons on close each other. And here let's see, here I have to even a bit more stuff like that, and then I create this, and now I'm fairly happy with the result this far. So here now it's blocked nicely there, and the next thing what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show a bit of retopoing the head. So here in the head we cannot use only edge loops which goes around the head like this, because we have like holes here in the head what we might want to animate. So for this kind of holes, like eyes or the mouth or the nostrils, we need to create own loops going around what we are going to connect. So because there is so fine detail here around the eyes, where we can start with the smaller poly size like this, and now I'm trying to go around the eye, and then I'm just trying to adjust these edges to be facing the edge of the sculpted eye like this. So I'm basically making a poly circle here. Like this. So I'm a bit of modifying that. So I try to follow this line here with my edges. like this. And then the thing what I can do here, because there is even more fine detail what I'm capturing now, here in the eye, I can come on top of this edge here and press mouse's middle button and bring this in, so I can get a new poly loop created from my earlier, but it doesn't work quite nicely. So maybe I'm doing this for the outer one, or outer edge loop, so pressing down tab and mouse middle button. Well, that's not working nicely either, so let's forget that. But now when I have this loop here, I want to start capturing this detail around the eye, which is let's say more flat, but still I want to preserve forms, for example like this cheekbone here, and then this forehead of the character is something what I want to also preserve. So this edge here is kind of nice. Nice, what I want to definitely keep. And then at some point, if I'm just continuing to do this loop here or circle what I've created, maybe even on this loop, my polygons are going to be really stretched out like this, and they are not anymore following the forms of the sculpt. And this is the point basically where I want to break, or not the break, but transform the facings of my polyloops, or create new polyloops where I will connect this earlier circle. So for example, at this case, I can start to create a new polyloop here around the head, which goes like this. And this is some loop what I'm actually going to mirror, so that's why I'm doing only the half of it, like this, and then I'm going to relax it. And as you can see that here there is not so much detail what I need to capture form wise, so I'm using bigger polygons compared to the eye. So there is now loop, and then I'm going to connect these two here and here. But if I try to connect these two, it doesn't look right. We are losing, for example, this cheekbone here, or the form of the cheekbone. So the thing what you need to do in these cases is that you have to break kind of the polyloop, and you are going to create a star, or yeah, star kind of form, or directional chains, so to speak. So the thing what I'm doing here, more slower pace, is that I'm not doing this, what Maya tells me, but I'm creating two more vertices down here, and I'm actually starting to create this poly loop to go down here, or I'm guiding this poly loop to go down here, and then I have new chance to create a polygon here. And what I meant that I'm creating a star is that now I have one vertex which connects like 5 faces same time. Until this point we have connected only like four different faces to same vertex, and now we are connecting 5. The thing why I'm telling you about these directional changes or stars is that you should be aware of that you don't want to create this star form or very near the areas where is lots of deformation, because these might cause some animation issues or deformation issues. But here on the cheekbone it's very safe to create if we think about the concept of the cheekbone. Well, it's quite clear that it's bone and it's not moving, or there is not going to be lots of deformation on top of the bone. So that's why we can quite easily create this kind of star. And when you are creating a star or directional chains, is good to keep in mind that you should connect only 5 for that. Sometimes you might connect more than 5 faces into one vertex. That's something what should be avoided, because if there is over the 5 faces connected to the one vertex, it might cause even more deformation issues. So that's something what you should be aware of. And as I said earlier, uh, the face needs a lot of resolution, and like for the eyes, for the mouth we have to create as well the own edge loop going around it, like this, and with quite small resolution as well. And the edge should follow the overall form of the face, like this. And now the funny thing is that we have to connect all these, so this is kind of a puzzle. So let's see, this can be actually go here, and as we can see that there is already directional chains going to be formed, but this is really back and forth process when we are doing Retopo. So now I can see that definitely this can't go here nicely, so I will delete this and start to create a new poly loop from the corner of the mouth, like this. And there I maybe will do a polystar later, but let's see. So good thing to do from the corner of the mouth is usually to start poly loop, which goes around the head like this, and after we have mirrored this, it will eventually go around the head to the other corner of the mouth, and then it will be super nice and neat. And let's see, maybe I even delete these as well and start to create here new loop for my mouth, which I'm trying to continue here. Sometimes also this tool offers you very odd uh, places where it want to create the face. If you cannot get the result what you are aiming for, it's usually just you create two more vertices and then press shift and then just take this one vertex and weld it like this. So you shouldn't spend too much time for just trying to get it right, because you can just create new vertex and then weld it together. So this is basically what you are going to do with the mouth. And then we can see that, okay, now we might have a chance to connect this nicely to go up in the eye. And as we can see, the star is forming here. And it's quite okay there, I would say. Because of if we are thinking our character, it might be good there. And then we are just continuing the eye like this a bit, then connecting this, and then again here is going to be one more star, but it's going to be on the area where shouldn't be lots of deformation. So also you have to think the anatomy of the creature when you are doing Retopo, because uh, right after the Retopo there might be already rigging of the character, and if we want to, for example, move the mouth or make creases in the face here when we are creating the animation rig, we need lots of geometry to that area what we can modify with bones and blend shapes. So that's something what you should keep in mind. And I'm still going to connect the nostrils to this puzzle. So this here, and sometimes because this tool is based on the camera, sometimes it cannot find all the four vertices at the same time. So then you just have to go around the model and try to find angle for the Maya's scene camera to see all the four vertices what you want to connect, and then press shift and then press mouse left. And actually here I can relax again by holding down shift and just holding down my mouse left button. And again for the nostril I'm going to create a loop like this, and as you can see the resolution will be lots or a bit smaller than for these areas, but we can soon start to figure out how to connect that one. So the most obvious connection here is this, and then this goes quite nicely, and this as well. But then I think we need to create directional chains here, but that's not going to be any good. So maybe we have to give a bit more resolution for the mouth here, like this. Connect that. Maybe just delete that and then connect these two, and now we have nice cube there. And as you can see, or poly here, and then directional change appears here. then I can make this larger. Like this, and I can create that one there, and actually I can create here one more extra loop for the nose of the shark. Then I'm just pressing down shift and relaxing everything. This loop goes here, and actually for this point I'm going to do directional chains. And directional chains. Usually there is like 4 of directional chains around your shape, or this circle what you have created. And with practice you start to see how to control those directional changes. So at first you will create tons of those, and after you have done this for a while, you start to see how you should create topology to make it look nice and neat. And this is again some skill what I cannot teach you right away. You just have to learn this by doing lots and lots of it. But there is really good tutorials about theory of Retopo provided on YouTube. So that's something what might help you a lot of when you are trying to understand how edges should flow around the head, for example, and around the arms and around the hands area. And next thing what you're going to do is you are starting to retopo with your own character, and feel free to ask help